Okay, welcome into this special Christmas Eve edition of the Milwaukee Bucks on Tap podcast. Corey Moen, Evan Bernd. Evan, how we doing?
Doing all right. It's Christmas tomorrow. Can't be too disappointed, but we got some couple games though to look over
Yes.
before we get to Christmas.
Yes, but before we do, I think I speak for all of us when I say that I hope everyone's getting to where they need to go safely and soundly. I know Wisconsin was supposed to have a blizzard. It wasn't blizzard-like conditions, but it was pretty windy outside. So again, we just hope everyone's staying safe, healthy through this holiday season. We're all blessed here. So let's get right into the games. First up, Evan, Milwaukee played against the Utah Jazz last Saturday. 123-97. I believe that sounds correct.
Yes.
That was another guy's game, what I like to call it. So Giannis didn't play, Chris Middleton didn't play, but Bobby Portis really stepped up. So
yes.
what are your thoughts on what you saw from the Bucks last Saturday?
See, I like when Giannis and Chris are out and other guys are able to, because they won by 26 to the Jazz, who again are kind of showing like their true selves as of recently, who started out pretty hot. But it's nice to see Bobby scoring 20 plus and Marjan off the bench scoring almost 20. So to see some of these guys who are capable of scoring, just depending on who's on the court when they are. But it was nice to see Bobby kind of getting the start. I really like when he starts. I think he's able to put up really good numbers typically when he's starting over Giannis or Chris. So it was a good game overall from him. Again, another double-double. Shooting wise, a little better as of recently, kind of going downhill, but he's doing well though. I can't hate on him.
Yeah, and Lauri Markkanen's dad was actually at the game. Brook Lopez, 3 blocks and three blocks and three straight possessions when Markkanen went up against Lopez.
Those are the only 3 blocks of the game were from Brook.
It was just on those 3 particular plays. Look, the Jazz are a cute story. It's not a good team. They have a lot of young talent. I'm not gonna say they don't, but I mean, look, Danny Ainge knew that Utah was going to be rebuilding.
Yes, and it's a good sign though for them.
Yes, yeah, and again, Lauri Markkanen's been solid. They still got Mike Conley there, so it's not that Utah just won't be good next year. I mean, look, we tend to fall into this with teams that are supposed to be rebuilding. Start off kind of hot, where it's like, ooh, maybe this team.
Yeah, now they don't think that anything needs to happen.
And now I'm sitting there and I'm like, just wait till Christmas.
Yep.
That's the barometer where you judge your team. You have to wait until Christmas. I was surprised that Milwaukee took care of Utah handily. Bobby Portis, again, huge game. He was like scoring at will. But here's another guy too, Marjan Beauchamp, 18 points coming off the bench, 5 of 9 from the field.
He's becoming a really good spot up 3 guy. Now there are some games where he'll hit at least 50% of them, or like miss 4 of like the 8 shots or 9 shots he takes. But he's becoming, I think, a lot more comfortable getting those open shots because at the beginning of the year he was missing a lot of shots. And he was taking more shots, but now he's taking a little less and making more. So I think he's kind of found his rhythm, his spot in the corner and like the corner wing. So I think he's starting to like feel a little more, kind of get into the game more and just be a little more active. So I like how he's playing, and I think he deserves more minutes at times just because of how he's getting around on the court. I don't know, he's putting in a lot of the work, and I think he deserves some more minutes over some of the other guys who are playing. But I really like how he's been playing the last couple of games, especially this past week, even with the losses.
Yeah, and we have to kind of stick with him. I think he's finally starting to get more comfortable. I mean, and look, he's only a rookie on a contending team. So while I'd like to have him have more minutes, it's going to be extremely difficult with the bench we have now. And obviously we'll get into him a little bit later. But with Joe Ingles coming back, it's going to be very hard for Beauchamp and Jordan Nora to find consistent minutes in Coach Budenholzer's rotation. because there's just a lot of other guys who
He doesn't like the young guys.
He doesn't really like the young guys, and at this moment,
the young guys are doing better.
There's a lot of better players than him.
Yes.
The only young player who Budenholzer really liked because he could play great defense. He was a good shooter. Was DiVincenzo, and even DiVincenzo, he started off the bench, dealt with a couple injuries, and then he carved out a nice little starting role for himself. But other than that, yeah, this has basically been the same team for the past 4 or 5 years.
Yep, give or take one couple guys. So
yeah, and
it is what it is. It sucks for some of those guys, but it's nice to have these kinds of games every so often. It's coming more often than typical to still get them out there instead of them not playing for like a week and a half and then all of a sudden, oh, you're starting. So it's kind of nice for them to like be able to consistently get these kinds of minutes in these kind of not really throwaway games, but games where they're not as worried if they lose.
Yeah, and look, in Budenholzer's rotation, you have to earn it. Okay, like I go back to there's 2 prime examples right here. The first one was during the Bucks playoff run. People forget that Budenholzer benched Bobby Portis in the Brooklyn series, and Bobby Portis, I don't think was as important then as he is now. Like he would do that now, but like back then it was like, well, he doesn't play great defense, and like it was just kind of like a matchup nightmare against Brooklyn. And, PJ Tucker obviously was the better matchup. And even go back to the playoffs last year. Javon Carter didn't play a lot of minutes in the series against Boston, where we thought he should have. But he thought that George Hill was the better option. Clearly, he was wrong. But in Budenholzer's rotation, especially with the guy who's either been in the league who's young or the guy who's been in the league for 6 years, it doesn't matter. You just have to earn it in Coach Budenholzer's rotation. And I think even last year, like he felt Javon didn't shoot as well, but he could always play great defense. But Budenholzer, you need to be able to do 2 things well to kind of stick.
Totally agree with that. It can be really frustrating, I think, for some of these young guys of like where they think they're doing everything correct and then they still don't see like the results coming for them, which I'm sure is tough, but give them a little time. They'll get there.
Yeah, they will get there.
Yeah, after some of these guys, I'm assuming will leave and then they'll get the step up, so their time will come. But overall, a pretty good game without Giannis and Chris. Like an actual like really good game. Because I think Giannis was a late scratch.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a good other guys game. Obviously, you still have Drew, Bobby, and stuff in, but good game from some of those guys.
Yeah, and they also held Utah to 14 points in the fourth. So
it was a close game up until the fourth.
Yeah,
which is where because they outscored them and everyone but the third. But yeah, all those points just added up at the end. So the fourth quarter was really like their go ahead.
Yeah, so Bucks beat the Jazz 123-97. Moving on to the next game. Now I was more mad at this game despite it being a win. Bucks knock off the Pelicans 128-19. Evan, here's why I was mad. I was mad because Jonas Valanciunas and Hakeem Olajuwon went off for 7 threes and 37 points.
There's a couple players in the NBA that I've never really been a fan of. Valanciunas is one of those guys, and like he's I think like on the lowest though. Like there's other guys who I can't stand even more, but they at one point in the beginning of the game they were losing to him because he had 15 points to like the Bucks 12. I was like, they're just letting him shoot, and he has one of the worst jump shots I have ever seen. It looked like Manute Bol for 3 when he would just like fling them up. Like it was like the step and just like the hurl, and like they were going in, and then they weren't guarding him. I was like, you can't just let this guy keep shooting if he's that hot. Like his heat checks he kept making, and no one was. It was that defensive scheme where they just let him shoot. But my goodness, he was flinging them. He had 37? I think his career high was 39. So he started off hot. 7 for 10 on threes. The Bucks had 13 threes that entire game. And 2 guys, CJ McCollum and Valanciunas, had 13 total.
I don't mind if CJ McCollum goes off against
but like 7 for 10 on threes for their center is insane. It's crazy though, like how different the NBA is now. That your center is 7 for 10 on threes, and Brook was 4 for 9 on threes. It's a different kind of game, but it was crazy to see like how hot he started, and he didn't stop. It was the whole game,
Well, yeah, a little bit because were able to shut him down slightly in the second half.
which helped them out, I think, towards the win.
Yes.
Had
Yeah.
he stayed like that, it would have been a lot closer than a 9-point win. Yeah, because he also had 18 rebounds.
Yeah, and Milwaukee's strategy, their defensive strategy has always been we're not going to let the main guy go off against us. So, i.e., they frustrated the hell out of Zion.
It did. He was not scoring at all in that
Mm-mm.
first half.
No. And again, he kind of popped off a little bit in the second half.
Yep.
He had 18 points. But I think what Milwaukee did was we're just going to foul the hell out of him. And we're just going to make him shoot free throws. Because he's not the strongest free throw shooter in the world. And like when you have bigger bodies like that, like Brook and Giannis, it's kind of makes it easier to do that. And look, Zion is just he's pure power. Like he hasn't really developed like an outside game at all.
They kept showing him he is massive.
Yeah.
Like it is I feel like some of those times where he just needs to like be a Giannis and drive to the hoop. It's so hard to like figure out like where they should like play him just because he's not like basketball big. He's football big. And like I feel like it's just harder for like some of those bigger guys too, but they kept locking him up, and I think he got a technical that game, which doesn't surprise me because everyone is these days. But they got him like frustrated at first because he shot 7 for 16.
Yeah.
And I really think he only like scored in the second half.
Yeah.
After he kept complaining about like getting no calls. And then he was starting to get calls.
Yeah.
It's crazy how that works. But yeah, because he played 40 minutes and he only scored 18 points. So it was one of those games where like they figured out who to guard at like a certain area, like you were saying. But it was a really good lockdown game from him. And I think one of the biggest takeaways was obviously you have Giannis scoring 42, but yet Brook scoring 30. I think that was key because outside of him, Brook, and Drew, no one was really there. Pat, you could kind of say with 11, but yeah, a 30 piece from Brook, I think, is always key in any game because you don't get that quite often.
Yeah, and here's the other thing too. This was also the first game back for Joe Ingles. 0 points in 15 minutes. So again,
I got my Joe Ingles mentions later.
The thing with Joe Ingles is I'm not going to harp on him too much because we're really expecting him to be a scorer. Yeah, if he can play make and set up Giannis and Brook and Chris and Drew and all those guys, I'm completely fine with that.
Yeah, I need him to we need him for the passes.
Yes.
He had a couple turnovers, but it was his first game back. I let it slide for that first game. I let it slide. I think one of the biggest things, especially going forward, like in the Cavs, Brooklyn, and the rest of the season, I really think Pat Connaughton needs to step up a little bit more, just a little bit.
Yeah,
I think he's going to be, and he was our dark horse kind of player, just because he scored double digits outside of no one else besides those three guys. So it's one of those things where it was a really good win, and I think they figured out late in the game who they need to guard and who need to score, because at first they weren't scoring in the second half, or they were, but the Pelicans were scoring right back at them. It was a really close game until the fourth.
Yeah, and look, New Orleans does have a good young team.
100%.
And I'm going to be saying that a lot, but with this practically being I don't know if I can really anoint this being Zion's team quite yet. I think CJ, because Zion hasn't played in a year and he's been pretty good. Yeah. But CJ McCollum, I think he's the leader for that team. And the other thing I noticed in that game was they let Herb Jones shoot.
Herb
Jones only shot 2 of 8 from the tree, and Herb Jones, you don't know what he is. He's one of the best defenders in the NBA out of University of Alabama.
Really good young guy.
Really, really good defender. Like Kawhi-esque. Sometimes just watching that guy defend, but not the strongest shooter in the world.
Yeah, I really like him, but yeah, getting him to shoot was key. Same with Jose Alvarado. I really like him because he's a really good defensive guy, but he went 0 for 6 and 0 for 5 from 3 in the 20 minutes. So he didn't score. So if you can get some of those guys to shoot who aren't typically shooters, it's always a good game then.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention this earlier before we kind of went into the recap, is Chris Middleton also did not play. And we'll kind of get into Chris Middleton a little bit later, but he's missed the past 4 games with left knee soreness, but obviously kind of toward the end, me and Evan will get into that about what the concern level should be. So right now, we got to get into the next game.
Here we go.
At Cleveland, Wednesday night, Milwaukee lost 114 to 106. It was really, Evan, this game was really over in the first half.
It was, which sucks because they had such a good second half. But this game, and when we get into the Nets game, their first halves have been horrible. Where 2 games in a row, you score 20, less than 30 points. It's only scored 20 in the first and 22 in the second, where it's 42 going to the half. It's never a good sign where you are scoring what you could score in like sometimes a quarter or a quarter and a half. So it was a really good second half, but that first half really lost it for them.
They went on a 16-0 run, like into the first, going into the second. Like Milwaukee,
and what
couldn't score.
It's so annoying when they go on like that big of a run, but they're still down by double digits. And it's like the Bucks are on a 15-2 lead, but they're still down by 14. It's like awesome. It was a really good game from Giannis where you just choke a 45-point performance. But if you look at that box score,
it's ugly.
It is horrible.
Ugh.
Giannis scoring 45 points, and the next high score was Brook with 14. That's a 31-point difference. It was a really bad game.
And I will say this, in fairness to Cleveland, is so last time Milwaukee played Cleveland, Jared Allen went out very early.
Yep, he did not play, and I knew that was going to be key because he is so underrated.
Yes. Yeah.
Even when he was on the Nets, no one looked at him. The guys he was blocking at the rim were LeBron, Giannis, it was all these like superstars, and he doesn't get the respect I don't think he deserves.
No, he is the anchor to that defense. Absolutely. Like without, and yes, last time had a big performance once again against Cleveland because without Jared Allen in there, they don't really have a rim protector.
Yeah, he was able to just go after him. Evan Mobley is like kind of like their guy, but he's I don't know. He is a very skinny guy. He is a very like rookie Giannis type. Built where eventually he will get to that physique, but Giannis is able to just like breeze right past him every time. And he gets into foul trouble almost every time too.
And look, what I kind of noticed for that game was, Donovan Mitchell had what, 31, 32?
36.
Oh, 36, excuse me. And he also went 16 of 17 from the line, 17 and 18. Like you only missed
15, 16. So he shot 16 free throws, but he shot 9 for 21.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Donovan Mitchell, he is a great playmaker. He's the best player on their team. And Milwaukee just had no answers for him. Just none. But the only bright side to that game against Cleveland was that Joe Ingles finally scored his first point.
He did score. He went 1 for 3. And I missed it. I don't know where I was looking, but I was not looking at the game when he made that.
Here's the other bright side too. I'm going to show this in a minute, but Drew Holiday's half-court shot was insane.
That was the weirdest sequence because it was like a span of 3 seconds, like Donovan Mitchell and then Drew. All right.
Yep. So I'm about to show it right now.
And I wonder if they're gonna if they show the angle. There's one other clip of Donovan Mitchell like staring at him, like looking at the "come on, man" like kind of face where he's like, "How did you make that?" But if you saw the game, it was the play before the clock. The shot clock didn't reset because of the inbounds play. So Donovan Mitchell hit the half court, like the in between half court and the three, swished it, and then 1 second left. Drew Holiday bank, and then they both looked at each other like, "Yeah, that just happened." And yeah, what a sequence! What an end of the half sequence.
And quick apology, the sound did not play for that, unfortunately, but I think you can imagine that there was a lot of excitement there. And look, Donovan just hit a step back three.
Yep. So everyone's like, "Oh my god, woohoo!" And then Drew hits it. It's where it just cancels it out.
Just, no, and it's so rare when that happens in basketball.
It is.
When,
You never really see those kinds of shots outside of Curry.
no.
I've only seen one half court shot, I think, in person against the Bucks, and that was a Brandon Jennings shot. So it's very rare that you see that happen. But you get the double up.
Yeah. So, and look, it wasn't a huge deal in the scheme of the game because, that shot cut him to a 16-point lead heading into the fourth for Cleveland. But it's just half court shots are very cool.
So that game, I'm gonna give them that game was
Yeah.
It was a really bad first half. Had it been consistent throughout the entire game, I would have given it a really bad game. Because I'll get into that when I talk about the Nets, because there's a difference, I think.
There is. So actually we'll get into the Nets right now. So Milwaukee played Brooklyn yesterday in Brooklyn. They lost 118-100. And here's what I compare this game to, Evan. It's kind of like a slow death where Milwaukee's not going to come back. They're going to give the impression that they're going to come back.
Mm-hmm. They
tease you. It's like, but it was a good first. It was really a good first half, I'd say, for Milwaukee. Like the game was relatively close. It's just, between. So Brooklyn's Brooklyn's finally figured it out. Kyrie Irving didn't have the greatest game. Shout out Javon Carter, really locked him up. But
everyone else did.
Everyone else did. So all five starters scored in double figures. Kevin Durant scored 24. Nick Claxton scored 19. And before the podcast started, you had some thoughts about
Nick Claxton was trying to be like that guy to Giannis, even though Giannis still outshot him, out-rebounded him, and out-assisted him. Claxton only made like these little floaters, and they were going in. So we'll let him have his little moment. He's not a bad player. I'm not hating on him. He's not a nobody. But whenever they beat like a team like this, it's like, all right, dude.
Relax.
Cool. Yeah. All right, go back to not doing anything.
He was making those like Robin Lopez-esque hook shots.
Yes, and like that was it. That was literally it. He had one dunk and two little hook shots. I was like, okay, cool. But yeah, it was Royce O'Neal. They just kept leaving open for three.
Oh God, he did.
And Royce O'Neal has never been like a horrible player. For like NBA fans like know Royce O'Neal, he's a good shooter. And guess what the Nets have that the Bucks don't have? 3-point shooters.
Mm-hmm.
And what I wanted to like mention, so like I'm in this Bucks Facebook group.
Oh boy.
And there's a lot of people in that. And I made a post. I never really post, but I made a post saying that how the Bucks have been playing this entire year. There's someone or people on this roster that I don't think are going to help them win. And they need a consistent 3-point shooter if they want to stay in the playoffs, or like they don't have a consistent score, a 3-point score. They have a consistent score. His name is Giannis.
Yeah.
And they don't have a 3-point shooter though. The Bucks shot that game 9 for 37 on 3-pointers. And at one point in the game, if you give maybe 5 more 3-pointers, which is a very reasonable amount of 3-pointers, the Bucks are right in the game because that is 15 points. I looked up the Bucks 3-point percentage. They're 16th in the league right now with 35% shooting from 3.
Jeez.
And I think a lot of the teams under them, maybe like the next 8 teams under them, are within like 2 to 3%. So it is very close. And I made a post. I was like, there needs to be a consistent 3-point shooter on this team if they want to win the championship. Because I truly do not think that their current roster is, unless someone is there who just all of a sudden gets hot.
No.
And then people are either like, yes, exactly, like they need a shooter, or you get the people who are like, they lose one game and now all of you guys are hating. Like, this team is in first place and you guys are hating. But it's like, the seeding at this point does not matter. Any team is capable of beating any team. And the Bucks are they're not even in first anymore. Like, it's a half a game with the Celtics and it's 1.5 with the Cavs.
Yeah.
And I see it as a move needs to be made, and Chris Middleton is out. And I don't think Chris Middleton is going to all of a sudden average 20 plus points a game.
Nope.
So like, I'm just confused on what Budenholzer sees in them consistently only making 10 3-pointers a game and missing 20 plus. I'm just lost as to what is his scheme as to how are they going to fix that, because you can't win games shooting 10 for like 40 on 3-pointers. It's not going to win you a game. So like, that was like my scheme of like, this was a loss where it was like a concerning loss. Because you have bad losses, like the 76ers game, the Rockets game. They both played like crap, but they played like a little less crap than the Bucks. This was a very concerning loss because no one looked good besides Giannis. And and it was like one of those is like, who's going to step up or who deserves minutes, because it's like one of those where it's like, okay, if no one else is making them, why not just try AJ Green? Why not just put Jordan Noah back in? Why not try Wesley and just see what happens in one of these kinds of games? It's like, just try it out, Budenholzer, but he doesn't.
He never tries.
There's my rant. I'm just concerned of like their shooting, because Chris Middleton's not going to come back and average what people think he's going to do. They played him too early, and now he's hurt again, and who knows when he's going to come back. Javon Carter has been shooting horrifically. I know you didn't get to watch a lot of the game, but Javon Carter keeps dribbling it, and then he doesn't do anything with it. He dribbles for like 7 seconds, where it's like, all right, what are we doing? There was no offensive scheme that game, and I'm shocked they got 100 points.
Here's the other concerning thing with Milwaukee. And again, I was able to watch up until the fourth quarter. I actually just rewatched it or watched it, whatever. They're so sloppy with the basketball, and it is making me so mad. Like, honestly, there was one possession where there was like 1 to 2 possessions where they had a turnover. Brooklyn missed, like, it was a Royce O'Neal 3. Javon Carter, it was like Drew Holiday tried to fit it into Javon Carter. And Ben Simmons is like 6'10", and he steps in and makes it easy steal. I'm like, what are we doing?
Like, it's these passes where they're going over their head. Like, you get one, and then it's like, all right, cool. But then you get a lot where it's like, where are you throwing it to?
Good.
And I think Bucks fans are so caught up in, well, they're the best team in the league. Like, nothing needs to happen. Like, these comments, like, I was laughing so hard reading, like, it says, this one guy says, relax, we'll be fine. We'll flip that switch when the playoffs are here. But now,
here's the thing.
Yeah.
Here's the thing with that, okay? And that is what separates, like, the fans like us, fans who take every single game seriously, okay? Even add in, like, Nathan Marzian, who's, like, basically king of Bucks Twitter. Or really any other Bucks fan, really any other Bucks Twitter, like, that's what separates us from casual fans.
Exactly. These are the teams we're going to be playing in the playoffs.
Yes.
This was not the Pistons. This was not the Magic. Like, these are like, this whole next week are teams who they could be playing in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And there are so many people who just are blindsided because they're 22-10. But after this loss, the Bucks are 8-7 on away games. And it's like if that like carries on, like they're turning into a team like who are only capable of winning at home.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like we'll be fine. Plus we're missing Middleton, who's our second best scorer on the team. We'll be fine. And it's like, but are we? He came in for a little bit and played like garbage.
Yeah.
You got some guys who are like, Middleton is not like worth, like he's getting like 40 some $1 million. You get the lopsided fans where it's like, we need more consistent shooting or we'll be fine. We're in first place. Like, nah, nah, nah. Okay, but like look at the teams who we beat and then look at the teams who we're playing and now losing to. Yes, we have beat the Cavs this year and the Nets, but now they are outplaying the Bucks where it's like, okay, what needs to change? Because there needs to be a change. You
Yes.
cannot ride with this team unless all of a sudden they pick it up.
Yeah.
But it's Christmas time. It's like the Bucks are not. It's not the first 10 games. We're at 32 games. We got 50 more games. It seems like a lot, but it's crunch time. Like where you get to the All-Star break, it's like that's when they need to make their push. But yes, people are saying like all 30 teams can win a championship, and like it's I don't know. I just watched that game. I was like, something needs to change. Like they can't keep shooting or making less than 10 3-pointers a game and expecting to win because you're not going to.
Mm-mm.
And that goes for any team.
Yeah.
Every team seems to have a 3-point shooter, but the Bucks.
And here's why it matters so much. Okay, because here's the thing: we're not focused on some useless game in February. Okay, we're focused on what they're going to look like in April, May. We're focused on championships here. Okay, we're not like the people that are saying, "Well, you need to relax. We'll be fine." Yeah, we'll be fine in the regular season. We're always going to be fine in the regular season as long as we have Jrue Holiday, Chris Middleton, and Giannis.
They're not just going to lose. Yeah.
But we're talking about like how we're going to look down the line here once the postseason starts. Okay. And we're not even talking about the first round because I expect Milwaukee every time they play in the first round to win in the first round. We're talking about who they're going to play in the Eastern Conference semis, Eastern Conference finals.
Exactly.
Like, every year now, as long as Giannis is a Buck, we're contending for championships. Okay. So this like laissez-faire, oh, well, we're going to be fine. Well, we have the best record in the league. The best record in the league didn't matter when we had it in 2018, 2019, even 2020. It didn't matter because we didn't win a championship. And when we had this laissez-faire thing in 2021 where it was like, well, we're gonna try some things, but we're not gonna contend for the best record. We won a championship. So I don't care really about having the best record if we don't get a championship at the end of the day.
Exactly. At the seeds at this point do not matter in sports, especially baseball. Anything can happen. Basketball, anything can happen. Football, anything can happen. Because we've seen it with the Packers when they won the Super Bowl. They were the wild card.
Yeah.
And people are so caught up with needing to be the 1 seed where they're just so like they have the tunnel vision where they don't see anything outside of the 1st seed. You don't need to be the 1st seed to win the championship. And you got teams that are like barely over 500 who are beating these teams. And like the Pacers right now look way better than being 17-16.
Yeah.
The Knicks are on a huge win streak. Or no, they just lost it, but they were on like an 8-win streak. And it's like some of these teams are like making a push, and the Bucks are just fooling around, it seems like. And it's concerning for like people who want to win. Like I would like to see the Bucks to continue to win. But everyone is just, a lot of people are just so delusional about being the best team in the league and see nothing wrong of like, oh, well, they have a bad night. Yeah, but like a bad night is not consistently shooting 30% on 3-pointers. Like that's not maybe once or twice, but I looked back and it's almost every game. So it's like what stands out between people who want to win and people who just want to have the best, like what you said, the best record in the league for the regular season. That doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, look, if my team's good, like, I don't like saying, well, better luck next season. I'm like, but
Uh-huh.
there's no time like the present. Okay. And Milwaukee not shooting well from three is a trend.
Exactly.
But the other issue with Milwaukee is every time it feels like they feel like they got like a nice 3-point shooter, he'll do well in the regular season, but he doesn't show up in the playoffs.
Exactly.
And look, they've tried, okay? They've added Mirotic in the past. They've added, you know,
That didn't work.
that was the first time I thought of. But look,
But
Pat,
that's who they needed.
but
He
Pat
was
Connaughton's been there. Grayson Allen, like
uh-huh.
even when they had what was left of Kyle Korver, okay, they've tried. They tried
Exactly.
to add 3-point marksman. It didn't work. None of it worked. Okay, and it was funny that Mirotic the first name I thought of, but honestly, he was supposed to be
He
like a
was.
knockdown shooter.
And they got him for nothing too. And he didn't show up. And that was like a key in 2018 where he ended up going from we need him to just benching him in the playoffs because he didn't do anything to end the season. That was the 2018 run. That was like, oh my gosh, like this is our year. And then we're up 2-0 to the Raptors, and then the Raptors win the championship.
That would hurt. That would still hurt. But
That
look,
does.
and like, how concerned? What's your concern level with Chris Middleton?
Like I need them to like 100% know that he is healthy to play.
Uh,
And if they could figure out how to not play him for a while and make a trade to like get someone who could somewhat fit his place, awesome. But like I don't want to rush him and then have him get hurt and then hurt him long term. Because right now it's looking more long term than it should have been. Like I would have rather had him still not play this entire season. Or up until like now, not the whole season. But
okay.
like had he not played that stretch of 7 or 8 games where he had 2 good scoring games. So like I'm more worried about like him long term than I am for like him this season. And I
Yeah.
think is like important to note because sure we want to win every year because we already got a taste of it and like you want more of it, but if it's his health for later on, I think I'm more worried about that than having him come back right now to help us. Because like right now we need his help, but we could figure out a way to not need his help.
Yeah, and the concerning part was so I think last week I believe or 2 weeks ago, sorry, against Houston, he had an ankle sprain. He only
Yep.
played like 6 minutes, and then he played the next game. So I'm worried that. And first of all, I don't even know what they're shooting these players up with, but like players are coming back with ankle sprains faster than I've
Yeah.
ever seen before. It's the weirdest thing. Like usually that's like a 3-week injury, and all of a sudden they're playing the next game.
Uh-huh.
So maybe like just an ankle sprain is like less serious than a high ankle sprain. I'm not 100% sure. Either way, I probably would have held him out for that stretch because look, he wasn't playing well. He had 2 good scoring games against,
Uh-huh.
I
But
believe,
it was very
RA.
scattered to what he had. It wasn't like
Yeah,
back to back. It was like 3 games in between.
yeah, and look, he had that horrible performance against Memphis, which I
Uh-huh.
think is the last time he played because
Yeah, he went out that game too, I'm pretty sure.
yeah, and then he missed this past week of basketball with left knee soreness.
Mhm.
So if I had to say it right now, I'm at about a 7 because really I don't know what uh, Chris Middleton we're getting. We getting the guy
Uh-huh.
who's going to average 20, or are we getting the guy who's because like they don't run isolation. They haven't been running isolation offense for him.
No.
So I don't know if he's just going to be now kind of like a standalone shooter or what, but
Yeah, because when he was playing, he wasn't getting like they weren't making plays around him. He just somehow got the ball and was shooting it. Like there was nothing like built around him, and I feel like that didn't help with his shooting either.
mhm. Yeah, but here's the other thing too. So obviously he didn't play against Memphis yesterday, but he did contribute a technical foul.
Uh-huh, he did. I'm glad he was in the game, and I almost lost my mind when he got that.
He's in the game, but he's not playing.
No, and Budenholzer also got a technical foul for literally doing nothing. They're like throwing technicals out like it's candy.
Yeah, they might got.
And like
And like, I don't like to agree with the ref. I don't like to agree with the refs on really anything, but I mean that was an offensive foul. Like Drew Holiday just shouldered into Ben Simmons.
uh-huh.
He dug his shoulder into him. Like that was a technical foul. Or sorry, that was a foul. Like
Yeah.
you can't just
Claxton was doing that all game too, and they weren't giving him the calls either. And it's
wow.
like you can clearly tell like the difference. How can Drew Holiday knock down someone like that, and then Nick Claxton do it to someone smaller and like, oh, that was a really good play.
Oh yeah.
It's like, dude, stand your feet, bro. You're 6'10".
Speaking of Drew Holiday, we actually do have a play of the night from Drew Holiday, and I'm about to play it right now.
What a shot too.
It was a great shot. Yeah.
And like I literally mentioned to you earlier too, where it was what is the shot? Like what are we doing? Because like they weren't getting any shots up, and then he hit. I was like, okay, I'll give that to you, Drew.
That
But
was that was that is someone or Lisa Viner or Marcus Johnson called that like a horse shot when you just shoot that
yes,
when you just shoot that in horse where it's like what how do you make it like over the back like that
yeah,
is
and then Kevin Durant too, like looked at him like, dude,
and
whoa, it was, yeah, that was a literal horse shot, and I don't know how he hit that. It was a good
I don't
shot.
by the way, going back to Drew Holiday for a second. He did lock up KD a little bit. 9-17 for the field, 24 points. I
He
mean,
did again, underrated.
he
There was
is. And look, Kevin Durant on JJ Redick's podcast was like, "Yeah, Drew Holiday's probably like one of the best defenders ever."
Yeah, and no one talks about it
No,
because the guards aren't looked at the defenders. It's like the big men who are in the paint. I don't remember. I think it was John Havlicek maybe was I don't know what it was on, but I saw the video of like their last like segment. I think I don't I don't know. There was an old NBA legend and then one of the female analysts who were like giving like their awards out for the year. And one of them, he had Drew Holiday as the defensive player of the year, and then the other one had Brooke Lopez. So some people are starting to look at their impact. And then MVP, they had Giannis and Tatum, which are like the two front runners, but people are looking at Drew and people are looking at Brooke. So it's kind of nice to like finally see like some recognition for them.
Well, I don't even think Drew Holiday's won a Defensive Player of the Year, right? He's been
No,
all defensive
he's
team.
like barely even been in the talks because Marcus Smart. It's like one of those things where it's like just by watching how well Drew played in that Celtics series against the defensive player of the year, and people still don't see it, it's insane.
You know what it is? You know what it is? I just think Drew Holiday needs to be more of a spaz defensively because Marcus Smart, like you watch him play defense, like
He
guy's
gets
kind
a
of a
shoulder
spaz.
hit and he's across the entire court like a slip and slide.
I'm like, how can you? And like, and there, I think there are three people up for it. I forgot. I know the other one. It was Mikal Bridges from Phoenix.
Yes, which is a very um good pick. Sorry, I'm like flustered with who I'm talking about. Yeah, he's a really good defender. Like I can't hate on him for wanting to or being like one of the top guys for that award because he is super underrated. But as of a week ago, it looked like Brooke was number 1 for defensive player award.
All right.
But I think in the end, Brooke will be in the nominations. Will they give Brooke and Drew a top 3? It's happened for other teams, but I feel like it's going to be one of them who's going to get it. But I think Brooke will be in the talks or Drew will be in the talks at the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I love Brooke. I love Brooke defensively because he's kind of a like I'm trying to think of the right words to say this, but he tricks you a little bit because he's
He
like, oh,
does.
I'm just gonna drive past this guy. And all of a sudden, he just reaches that long wingspan
Uh-huh.
route and just swats it away. And I'm like, and he's so good with like angles and all this
Yeah,
other
he
stuff.
knows where they're going. And I think one of my favorite blocks from him was the KD block on game 7 where he drove and he knew, and it's just those light slaps. It's not like a volleyball spike, it's just like tapping it out, like keeping the balloon up in the air.
Yeah.
He knows where they're going, and he does it well, typically without fouling. Um, but yeah, he's really good with contesting because he has like the most. I think he's the player who's been like contested the most, like 17 or 18 times. But yeah, there are times where he knows where they're going and he's ready to swat them away because I don't. It's crazy. Like his back surgery has done him wonders. It seems like this year.
Yeah, and look, being a guard against Drew Holiday, that guy will just put you in a torture chamber.
Yeah.
like, like he should do like a series of like regular people going up against Drew Holiday. Because
It's. I mean, I wouldn't hate to see it.
no, it is insane. It is insane how well he can defend. Speaking of series, I think another series idea that people should do is since everyone always thinks that oh well the last guy on the bench is like probably the worst player, the last guy on the bench for each NBA team should just show up to like a random park
Uh-huh.
and they
And
should
cook them.
and just face off against just regular people
Uh-huh.
and see how they deal.
Yep. Well, have you ever seen that Brian Scalabrine video where this guy tried to 1v1 Scalabrine in his early 40s and Scalabrine destroyed him? And I think one of the quotes he said was, I'm closer to LeBron than you are to me."
Uh,
And it's like there's only a couple hundred guys in the NBA, and it's like if you're not playing, dude, you're still in the NBA. Like you're there for a reason.
yeah.
It's not like I'm like sitting on the Bucks bench. Like these guys were college athletes or like played overseas, were like they're professionals, and it's like you cannot hate on those guys because they
No,
will destroy you anytime, any day.
yeah. So yeah, I wouldn't say that I'm gonna beat AJ Green
Uh-huh.
in a one on one because I'm not going to because that guy will he'll cook me either way. So um Evan, yeah, anything else?
I'm I'm worried for tomorrow.
Yeah.
The only thing, or one of the big things I think the Bucks need to focus on for tomorrow, is the three, and if it, more guarding the three. And I think if they can guard the three better and not let them shoot so many threes, I think they'll have a better chance. They just need to. Everyone needs to show up tomorrow. It can't be Giannis again and again and again because he can't carry you to a win. Sometimes he
No,
can, sometimes he can't.
no,
And
we need everyone tomorrow.
yes, the starters need. Drew needs to show up
Yep.
scoring wise. Like they need some of these guys to just like they need a Drew game where he can score at least 15. Javon needs to not shoot horrendously, and Grayson Allen, Bobby's been shooting bricks lately, and he needs to have a good game too, where it's like these guys need to get double digits. You don't need to have them score 30, but you need to like have somewhat of an impact when you're out there. It can't be 3 for 13 shooting. It needs to be like 3 for 7 if you're going to be shooting. So I'm a little worried for tomorrow, but the Celtics are also on like a pretty slumpy area too. So it's going to be close, I think, tomorrow. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think it's going to be who can make that final run. And I'm excited for tomorrow, but I'm dreading tomorrow because I don't want it to just like suck. At least it's at the end of the day where like all my Christmas has already like happened and now it's the Bucks game.
Yeah.
But I think there's a chance that they could pull it out. I'm a little worried, but there is a chance just of how the Celtics have been playing recently.
So Evan, my next question to you, what is your official prediction?
Whew. It's either going to be a really high scoring game
Mm-hmm.
or like a Rockets Bucks scoring game. I'm going to say if the Bucks, obviously I want the Bucks to win, so I'm going to say they're going to win. I'm going to say 111 to 106. I think it's going to be close, and I think that could go either way for the Bucks or Celtics. I think it's going to be less than 10 points. 111, 106. I know I'm going to be so wrong. It's going to be like 125 to 118. So 111, 106.
Yeah, I was thinking I would probably go Milwaukee 115 to 112. Look, and the only part that really concerns me is they just played each other last year.
Mm-hmm.
And on Christmas Day, and Wesley Matthews hit that massive
Ooh, that was so fun to go to. And that block,
But
yep.
now it's in Boston, so now it's going
Uh-huh.
to be a little tougher. Rematch of the Eastern Conference semifinals.
Yeah, maybe the Bucks are out for revenge. I don't know.
That's what I'm thinking.
I can't go talk to them and ask them.
Because obviously the last time they were in that building, it wasn't good. Bucks unfortunately lost Game 7. So I'm going to go Milwaukee 115 to 112. I think it's going to be a very, very
it's going to be close
game. Yeah, I think it's going to be close throughout.
I'd be kind of shocked if it was not.
Yeah. So, all right. Thank you guys for joining us on this edition of the Milwaukee Bucks on Tap podcast, and we'll see you next week.